Hey everyone, the Artificial Trainer here. Welcome into today's video. Before we jump right in, I just want to shout out the Discord that's in the comments. We've started up an artificial Discord, and we have some of the members of the community have jumped in there, and I've been helping out with tech support. There's been new models linked when we see them dropped. Really great community, and I encourage you to join up if you're looking to get more information on AI generation, both video, image, audio, all of that's in there. All right, so today we're going to go through Hunyuan Image-to-Video. This isn't the official image-to-video that Tencent is working on, but it does work fairly well, as you can see from the previews. Much better than anything that we've had up to this point. And it pretty much requires the same resources that Hunyuan required. We're basically only taking a Lora and adding that in. So pretty cool stuff. So let's jump right in. I have a pod spun up here. Let's look at the specs for the pod. So I'm running CUDA 12.4. We have 20 gigs of container disk, 120 gigs of volume disk, should be more than enough. And then make sure you expose both ports 8888, that's for Jupyter Lab, and then port 3000, that is for ComfyUI. Alright, so go ahead and create your pod with those characteristics. If you are running this locally, you should have no problems running it locally as long as you have 120 gigabytes of volume disk. And if you look back at my other videos, Hunyuan can run on as little as 4 gigabytes if you set up the right parameters. So if you have a smaller local GPU, definitely go back and watch that video and you'll easily be able to run this as well. Alright, so let's connect to Jupyter Lab here. Alright, so we're both starting at square one. Okay, so head over to my Patreon for the install scripts and the workflows. There's a few different files here. We'll go through all of them, and I'll let you know what each one is for. So we're going to want to start with the shell script, the .sh script. That's our install script. If you're on Linux, you can just run this. If you're on Windows, we'll go through real quick how to kind of decipher what this is doing. And you can try to copy, you're not going to be able to run this file, but you can try to copy what we're doing to be able to get the file system set up the same way on Windows. Alright, so we download the shell script, and let's drop it in to our workspace in Jupyter Lab. Alright, so here is our file. Just to run through real quick, if you just want to run the file, you don't have to stick around for this. You can fast forward in the video, but just to run through how this works. This first section here installs ComfyUI and the requirements necessary for it. This next block installs a bunch of custom nodes. If you're just going to copy the workflow and put it into ComfyUI and then install missing requirements, you don't have to do anything really with this step. You'll just be able to, drag the JSON file in and then install your missing custom nodes. Now this part here is where it gets a bit more complex. I'm not sure how many of these models will download automatically in ComfyUI or in the ComfyUI model manager, but all of these links are just links directly to the Hugging Face directory. So if we take a look at this first Hunyuan video Comfy URL, if we just paste that into our repository or into our search bar here, you'll get the link to the Hugging Face, and then you can just download the models that you see in here, right? So like this is the CFG Distill BF16 model. If we go over here, the CFG Distill BF16 model is right here, and you can download it. And then to know where to put the model, you go into models / diffusion models. So all of this is related to the Comfy UI home folder. So essentially we're taking the Hunyuan Video 720 CFG distill model and we're putting it into this file directory. Okay, so if you're on Windows, you can use that to kind of decipher your way down through all of these installs and just use that kind of as a key to see where the models belong in your own directory on Windows. Okay, the last thing down here, we're installing Sage Attention in bits and bytes, but I know that some people have trouble on Windows running, especially Sage Attention. Bits and bytes, I believe, should work on Windows fine, but I know Sage Attention has problems. So if you're not running on WSL2 with Linux on Windows, then you're going to want to delete that or not run that line because it's not going to work. And then the last thing to note about this install script is I have a bunch of a little guide down here on what is possible for each amount of VRAM you have for your GPU. So if you need a reference of like, I want to generate full resolution for X number of frames, you can look at it, how capable your card is for that. Okay, so that's a little description of the install script. Now we're going to just launch it. So if you're on Linux, this is where we pick back up. And from the workspace home folder, we want to do bash i2v underscore hunyuan.sh. Okay, so this is gonna take maybe 10 minutes to install, and I will see you again once this is done. Okay, so install script has finished running. If you're using RunPod, let's head over to the HTTP service button to start Comfy UI. If you're on a different platform, just however you connect to Comfy UI, do that. Okay, so we're connected up to Comfy UI. Head over to my Patreon, and we're gonna grab the workflows. So there's two different options for workflows. There's the native, which is the creator of Comfy UI integrated Hunyuan into just the native Comfy UI nodes. And then there's the wrapper that KJ created, which helps if you're low on VRAM. So if you only have like 4 or 6 gigabytes of VRAM or 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and you want to try this out locally, I would use the wrapper version. If you have, like a 3090 or 4090, I would try out the native version. The native is a little bit faster, and it also gives you, I think it typically is a little bit better quality, although it shouldn't really matter as long as the settings are exactly the same. I just think the settings are a little bit easier to get right in native. Okay, so I'm going to start with native. If you are on one of those people who has a low VRAM card, then you can just skip to the wrapper section now. Okay, so let's take that and drag it in here. Okay, and so this is our workflow. So we're going to use the BF16 model. We have our Lora. Our Lora was automatically installed. If you are on Linux, if you're on Windows, you know where we got this Lora from. If you're interested in reading a little bit about Leap Fusion, how they did this, you can go back into install script, find the Lora, searching for this name, and they have a Hugging Face page dedicated to this Lora. Okay. Just to go through the workflow real quick, so we're loading our models, we're loading our Lora. We have this wave speed node, which just speeds up inferencing based on if 2 steps aren't going to change that much, it skips the step and speeds it up. Patch stage detention. So if you are not on Linux, you're going to want to bypass this node. If you are on Linux, this also speeds up inference. We load our VAE up here, and we load our clips here. There are a few different clips that you can use, but I typically skip with these recommended ones. Load image. All right, and then we have to resize that image to agree with the image-to-video Lora resolution. You don't have to match this resolution perfectly. I've done, I think I've done 640 by 720 and it still worked. I've seen square images that still worked, but it's best if you stick close to what they recommend. Feel free to experiment with different resolutions though. Okay, and then I'm resizing the image to match the Lora resolution perfectly. And then we pass that into the encoder. So it's going to encode the image into latent space so that the model can inference on it. We pass the latent along with the model into this leap diffusion image to video patcher node. A good thing to note is this strength number here. I have it set on 0.8 by default. That's been giving me pretty good results, but you can play with it more. If you turn up the strength to 1, it should be more strict to your original image, but the movement may not be as natural. Okay, then we pass that into the model sampling node. And then the rest of this is just kind of standard, like if you're using Flux or Hunyuan native. Yeah. So this workflow is pretty set up for you. Really all you need to do is put in an image and then a prompt and you should be good to go as long as you have 24 gigabytes of VRAM. If you have less, you'll just have to turn down the length. On 24 gigabytes, you can get the full 121 5-second video. All right, so let's create our prompt. I'll just do an eagle or a hawk flying and holding a fish. All right, and let's execute this. It's gonna take maybe 4 or so minutes. That's the beauty of that wave speed node. It speeds up inferencing quite a bit. Oh, and one more thing that is pretty cool. I just canceled this generation because I wanted to show you. So if we go into our settings and go to VHS, you can display animated previews while sampling. So while this is running, you'll be able to see in this sampler custom advanced node, you'll be able to see the image or the video generating on the fly. So that way you can cancel it early if you're not getting a good generation. The other thing you should do is turn this preview method to auto. So turn the preview method to auto in the manager, and then in the settings, VHS, advanced previews always, and then sampling display animated previews. All right, let's run it. All right, so this one, the generation wasn't great, right? I mean, we got some good movement, but maybe the model just doesn't understand this hawk too well, or that position of the hawk wasn't understood very well by the model. But we do get some movement, and it does still hold the fish and fly. One more thing I wanted to note is that if we didn't get a lot of movement, maybe it stayed in that wobbly state for a while, we can turn up this shift setting here, the model sampling SD3, and we'll get more movement out of the model. All right, so for this next generation, I'm just going to turn down the length a bit and turn down the steps. All right, so I have this picture of a woman that the height and weight or the height and width are actually a little bit different for this one. This one is 620, or actually, sorry, 640 by 720. All right, so I'm going to change that's what I'm going to change the size to, and then we'll run this one through. I'm going to update the shift to 12 just to make sure I get a good amount of movement, and then I'll say a brunette woman running her hand through, actually let's say moving her hand through her hair. All right, and then let's run that. You can see the likeness stayed pretty well. I only did 14 steps, so this hand shifted a little bit weird. You know, maybe we want a little bit less movement, turn the flow shift down a little bit, or maybe if we had upped the steps a little bit, we'd get this hand not morphing. But you can see the likeness stayed really well. The blinking in the face is pretty good. And after the hand morphs, or after the hand kind of teleports, the movement of the hand is pretty good as well. Okay, so that is the native workflow. I just want to show you, I have two native workflows up. I just want to show you the difference. So the other one has auto captioning. So we have two extra little sections here. One is a Florence 2 captioner, and the other one is Janus captioner. They are both viable options, and they'll both generate fine captions for your images. I just tend not to use captioning for videos because I don't find that these models, even if you tell them, you know, like this is, if you put in here, like this is the first frame of a video, create a prompt for the next few seconds. Even if you put a prompt like this in, typically I want like a specific kind of motion based on the images. I don't just want like whatever the LLM generates. So that's why I provided these for you if you want to use them, but typically I just use a manual prompt. Okay, so let's move on to the wrapper nodes here, and I'll show you how these work. So if you want an in-depth explanation of how the Hunyuan video wrapper works, I would recommend heading over to my other video about running Hunyuan on any GPU. I'm just gonna run through the new parts here of the image encoding. If you want explanations on all of the rest of this stuff, then head over to that video. Okay, so one thing here, if you are not on Linux, make sure you turn the Sage Attention back to SDPA or Flash Attention if you have Flash Attention working. Sage Attention won't work unless you have Linux. This is where we're loading our Lora. So just like in native, we have the Lora from Leap Fusion in here. I'm going to be using the 960 by 544 Lora. And then for blocks to swap, typically I leave it around 20, but if you can make it run on 0, 0, you're going to get faster inference speed. So if you can do that, if you can handle 0, 0 on your GPU, I would do that. Okay. And here are the new nodes. So we have an upload image node. We resize the image to the Lora size. And then we have a Hunyuan video encode node, which encodes the images into latent space so that the Hunyuan video sampler can sample them. Okay, so let's upload an image. All right, so this one we want to flip our height and width, right? We have It's a 960 height and a 544 width image. For my prompts, I'm going to, we'll do a similar one to the last one. So a man laughing and moving his hand through his hair. Okay. And then I'm going to bump the flow shift up. So remember before there was a shift node in native for controlling how much movement we have in a video. Similar here with this flow shift. I'm going to go to 12 just so we can almost guarantee we get some movement. And then you can use either flow match or SD DPM for your scheduler. I'm going to use flow match here. Okay, and then we should be good to run it. All right, so we weren't getting the hand movement that we had hoped. It is sort of a video, but not getting the hand movement we hoped. Maybe that's just bad seed luck. Let's try running it again. I'm gonna increase the number of frames. See if maybe if you use more frames, you're generally gonna get more movement. So I'm going to increase the frames, and then let's try the BF16 model instead of the FP8 model. All right, so kind of a funny generation, right? But maybe we turned our flow shift up too high for this one, but it does still follow the prompt, right? The character's laughing and then he's moving his hands through his hair. Just kind of morphing it while he's doing it. Okay, so so that is our Hunyuan wrapper image to video workflow. Whether you want to use native or the wrapper really just comes down to experience with them. For me personally, I typically will use the wrapper, although I have heard that native is the better option. I've just always gotten better results with the wrapper than I have with native. And the other thing with the wrapper is that I can create much longer and more high quality generations because of all of the control around all of the parameters. So the last thing is there is one more workflow here for the wrapper. It just adds in that auto captioning that we talked about earlier. So that is it for today's video. If you have any questions or suggestions, again, leave them down in the comments. Always happy to help with issues you're having. If you want to head to the Discord, that's an even better place for me to help with issues because we can share pictures and videos and makes it easier to troubleshoot. Join my Patreon. I actually had information about this image to video Lora up much earlier than the YouTube video, so you'll be able to get first crack at trying the model or any new model that comes out if you follow my Patreon, and you'll get notified when these new models come out for you to try. All right, well, thank you everyone for watching my video, and I will talk to you again next time.